Well, coming off of yesterday's dramatic events in Manhattan and Mar-a-Lago, inevitably today, American conservatives are sort of sorting things out and figuring out where we stand. Yeah, we think President Trump's been jobbed here by this ridiculous indictment. Yeah, we think there's no legal basis for it. Yeah, we think it's outrageous that Democrats have now reached this extreme, crossed this Rubicon where the law can be used as a political weapon against their opponents. Yeah, all that's true. But we're still left sorting out the very real political issue. Is Donald Trump really the person to follow into the next presidential election? Given all of that, what's the political reality? And more importantly, where should the conservative movement focus its energies right now? What are the fights ahead that we have to be ready for, given this new reality? Well, let's try to answer all those questions. It should be easy. We got a few minutes. Josh Hammer joins us, conservative pundit. He, of course, is the host of the Josh Hammer Show, a finely titled podcast, as well as the opinion editor at Newsweek. Josh, thanks for being here.
Anytime. Thanks for having me, Larry.
Well, first, let's see if you accept the premise. I mean, I don't know anybody. I mean, Jeb Bush, Justin Amash, Ambassador Bolton, they all agree that this is outrageous and political. You concur, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Look, Larry, I'm a lawyer by background. Okay, so I kind of knew what we were getting in for here. In the history of when I clerked on a federal court, I mean, I have never seen a prosecution proceed along these lines where a county DA is trying to kind of enhance a misdemeanor to a felony by invoking something else. Honestly, when I reviewed the indictment and the statement of facts yesterday, though, it's even weaker than I thought it would be. I mean, to this moment, we literally do not know what is the alleged enhancement crime that Alvin Bragg thinks might take this from misdemeanor to a felony. It is ridiculous on jurisdictional grounds, on statute of limitations grounds, obviously on 35,000 foot altitude level, the crossing of the Rubicon grounds. It is ridiculous no matter how you look at it, and it's really just sad. I mean, that's my number one emotion takeaway this week, is it's really just sad for the country that we are at this point.
And of course, the conversation should be about that, about the use of the law. I mean, honestly, the target of everyone's conversation and the focus of this should be Alvin Bragg and how the Democrats have pushed this. But of course, the conversation is always about Donald Trump when Donald Trump is involved. And do you think, Josh, that that could potentially distract from the larger issues that conservatives need to be focusing on right now to win politically?
I mean, I would say that it already is. I already see that. I already feel that. And, look, I mean, this is an absurd abuse of prosecutorial power. It is a genuinely unprecedented thing in American history. It is a crossing of the Rubicon. It is a point of no return. All of that is absolutely true. At the same time, Larry, as you know, as someone who has been plugged in, deeply engaged in this fight for many years now, you know that this country is at a not particularly good point right now. And there are very, very real issues facing us no matter which way you look, from the border to all the woke crap to literally everything. I mean, it really feels like many of us that this country is increasingly coming apart at the seams. And yes, I absolutely worry about the fact that with all of this drama and all of this nonsense, all of this BS, that attention is really sucked away from these substantive issues that matter.
Yeah, last night, I think the events last night was a perfect allegory where we're watching President Trump go after the judge and the DA, and I think he has every right to go after them yesterday at Mar-a-Lago and sort of lay out this litany of how he's been attacked. And he's been doing this for the last several weeks as this indictment has been looming. Not once did President Trump use his high profile or his bully pulpit to draw attention to the election in Wisconsin last night that came through, where a left-wing Soros-backed radical Democrat has now swung the majority of the Wisconsin Supreme Court to Democrats' side, which means election integrity laws are going down. All of the great laws that Scott Walker, as governor, fought for will probably go down as well. Gerrymandering will now reorient all of the congressional districts. Why can't we do both? Why can't we focus on Trump and these other things, but also focus as a movement and as a Republican Party on these other very important elections that need attention?
So I don't want to sound too doomer, so to speak, but I will say that, I mentioned I'm a lawyer by background. One of my friends who fairly recently, within the past few years, clerked on the U.S. Supreme Court, his take to me this morning was that the 2024 presidential election was actually decided last night because of what happened in Wisconsin. Conservatives had a 5-2 majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court at the start of Donald Trump's presidency. The conservatives are now losing that court. They are out of power in the governor's mansion. It is extraordinarily difficult to see a Republican path to the White House in 2024 that does not go through Wisconsin. You can do the math, you can rejigger the math. You'd have to basically pick up Minnesota or Virginia. It starts to not look particularly good. Also in Chicago last night, the mayoral race in Chicago, admittedly, is between two Democrats. Chicago is obviously a bright blue city, but the far left defund the police, teachers union apologist nut job won over the fairly moderate, kind of tougher on crime Democratic Party option there. So it was a really bad night for the Republic last night. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, why can't we on the right walk and chew gum at the same time? I mean, races like what happened in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court election, matter a lot, arguably matter, frankly, even more than what happened in Manhattan. Arguably, I'm not saying it did, but from a substantive perspective, Wisconsin's battleground central. Why were we not paying attention to that?
I agree. And I think the Chairwoman McDaniel, who really wanted to be the chairwoman of the RNC one more term, she needed to explain what she was doing and what the party was doing during that race in Wisconsin. I'm not quite as doom and gloom, though. Listen, you mentioned Virginia. Yeah, you take Wisconsin off the map. Let's face it. Republicans have won the White House without Wisconsin in the last 20 years. Virginia may be the answer, and maybe that's what we can talk about positively right now, because Glenn Youngkin, Winsome Sears, Jason Miyares won statewide this last time around, and it was because of education issues. It was because of the school board issue. And it was because parents deserve to have a voice, and Glenn Youngkin and the Republicans dare to say that. Is that really the battleground right now for conservatives? Not only is it important for parents and our children and our society, but oh, by the way, that could be the route to electoral success that transcends the typical party issues that we've been divided over.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I wrote my syndicated column a few weeks ago, basically saying that parents and children are the future of the Republican Party and the conservative movement in general. So I am a full buyer into the whole kind of parental rights concept, into kind of the parental rights revolution. We see it with Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. We see it, of course, here in Florida, where I live, with our governor and our legislature, Ron DeSantis. And it seems to me that the same way that the Democratic Party has become the party of the PhD crowd, the academia, the Fortune 500, all that entails, the PhD, the Manhattan Upper West Side, like the true kind of upper class tier of society, Republicans should fully embrace the fact that they are now the party of the middle class and the working class. And the same way that the Democratic Party is the party of single women and kind of single cat ladies, people like that, Republicans have to be the party of family and the party of children. And all that entails, by the way, protecting them from, yes, the drag story hour and all of that other woke garbage, the stuff in the schools, the parental rights and education law that Florida passed last year, all of that is a part of that. But what some of us have been pushing for is actually to go even more than that and look into like the genuine material concerns of parents as well. I'm talking here about kind of Hungary-style family policy. There's been some policies proposed by senators like Josh Hawley and actually Mitt Romney himself in recent years that I think Republicans in general should start to get more on board with. But I think if Republicans can orient themselves as the party of parents and children and the family unit as a whole, that is an extraordinarily appealing paradigm with which to sell the party's message.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned Wisconsin and Chicago last night. Clearly, the progressive left is out organizing the conservative political machine in this country. Start focusing on some of those local issues and those local races. Not only do you actually help improve the lives of people living in those districts, but you also are building an infrastructure for electoral success in the future. We should be running the party, Josh, but well, we can't take the pay cut. Thanks for joining us. Good to talk with you. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.